Next step, step one, we talked about team building and the difference between a fronter and a closer. Now we're going to talk about finding data. This is a very important step in building an outsourced call center, okay? So let's go through that really quick. Well, what are the different options that I have with data? Well, I can go out and I can purchase data. Or I can go out and I can get a subscription to a data company where I can go in there and download lists and look at data, right? Or 3, I can go out there and actually scrape data. Now, there's hundreds of people on here. Most of you guys are doing one or the other, okay? But I want to break down the benefits and what things that you guys need to be looking at, okay? Purchase data, usually if you're getting good qualified data, costs between 1 cent to 25 cents per record, right? So to download Bobby the Plumber and all his information can cost you about all the way on the low end from 1 cent to 25 cents. Next, subscription data. Data that actually has a subscription to it. So $25 a month usually. I've seen some subscription software is all the way up to a couple hundred a month, right? Where you can actually go in there and actually download data so you can build the list and say, oh, plumbers in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I want to download the entire list, okay? You can do that with subscription data services. And then the third one is scrape data, which most of you guys might already be doing. The data costs are practically free because you're actually going out and scraping the data, okay? Let's keep going though. Here's some things that you guys need to focus on when you're getting data. Well, what are the valid data sources? Well, where is the data coming from, right? And you guys might not understand this until you build a call center and you're making thousands of calls a day, how important that is, right? So finding good qualified data that's been verified and filtered and up to date, these are the things that are so important so when your fronters are getting on the phone, they're not actually hitting a wall with businesses that are closed, companies that are out of date, contact information, phone numbers that are phone numbers from the guy's businesses from 10 years ago that's no longer active, emails that don't work anymore, right? Finding good qualified data is what you need to make sure of. So you always want to ask where the data is actually coming from. Next is verified and up-to-date data, which I already told you guys. After that, these are the fields that you want to make sure that you get. Business name, phone number, website. Having a contact name is a plus, okay? These are the main fields that you get. Now guys, when you guys are doing any of the 3 data sources, these are pretty generic data sources that come with your business, except for a name. Names are usually harder to come across, okay? But when you have a name, things change. So when you're asking a question or when you're talking to a specific person, you say, hey, is Bobby in? Instead of saying, hey, is a marketing manager in? Does that make any sense to you guys? Can you guys say yes in the chat? If you guys are on the same page so far? Cool. Lastly but not leastly, you need downloadable and industry segmented data. What does this mean? Well, I need to make sure that 1, I can download my data into an Excel list so I can take that data and do stuff with it. And secondly, I need to make sure when I download that data that it's segmented per industry. So as an example, if I want to go and download a list of plumbers in a certain city, I can do that. If I want to go download a list of roofers in a certain city, I can do that. As long as they are industry segmented, this process is going to be so easy for you guys. Okay, guys? And most data sources, depending on where you're getting them from, you can easily do that with a filter option. You can say, hey, I want to get all the plumbers that live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or that plumbers in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. You can go even more in depth that have been in business for 5 years, that do over $1 million in revenue, that have a website, that have an email address, and have a point of contact attached to them. I want that list. That's the list that I want. Right? So going into data, you can find these more detailed geographical type stuff, okay? So this is all about data. So you got 3 options. You can purchase your data, you can get subscription data, or you can actually go out and scrape data, okay? So we talked about team building, the difference between a fronter and a closer. We talked about finding data, right? Where you can find, you have 3 different options to find data. You can purchase the data, you can scrape the data, you can go subscription route, okay? And now let's talk about the dialing software, step number 3, okay? So for most of you guys, and for a lot of my career, I was literally hand dialing. Any of you guys ever do cold calls and hand dial? Say yes in the chat. You guys doing cold calls and hand dialing? Drop a quick yes in the chat for me. Let me know who you are. Still do. A lot of you guys said yes, 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 yes. Cool. All right, well, check this out. I want you guys to see something. Usually, when you're hand dialing, you can make about 150 calls per day, okay? On average. Now, this can go up or down. Don't be like, Chad, well, I make 200 calls a day. Or Chad, you can only make 75 calls a day. It doesn't matter, okay? This is an average. That's why the point of having the AVGs there, okay? And the reason why is because it depends on your talk time. It depends on your answer rate. There's a lot of things it's like a domino effect that happen, right? So hand dialing, you can make about 150 calls per day, okay? On average. Number two, well, if you take your list and then you upload that list to a power dialer, you can make 400 calls per day on average, okay?